And the light. Hey. Yeah, but and the light. Yeah, but and the light.
We got the sound or something?
Never done it before, so you're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, very, very kind.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Dave, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Very good to be here, Mr. Chairman. And I believe that y'all have received a copy of the progress report for Chiefs Tallahassee, have you not? All right, thank you. And I just want to go through a few points here very quickly and then respond to any questions that you might have. In the first place, my name is Dave Bruns. I'm the current chair of Choose Tallahassee. My term is up in September. I'm accepting congratulations from all on that. And the other thing I think we're to be congratulated for is that our new chair will be Michelle Bono, who I think many of you know from her service with the city, and she's currently a public relations professional and communications professional here in Tallahassee, and we're all very pleased that she's taking on that new role. Few more pleased than me. So let me make a couple of points. We've had, I think, a very productive couple of years with Choose Tallahassee. We have achieved a number of successes that are outlined in our progress report. We have, first, let me say, a new administrative home with Visit Tallahassee, and we're very pleased with the support that we've received from the Visit Tallahassee staff. They've been really very helpful for us. We are an all-volunteer organization. It's very difficult for an all-volunteer organization to keep abreast of the many challenges that an initiative of this type has, and it has been a tremendous assistance to us, and I want to thank the staff of Visit Tallahassee for everything that they've done. I also want to mention that we are seeing some very interesting trends that I believe you may have seen in the Office of Economic Vitality reports. I don't know if anyone has called this to your attention, but over the period 2010 to 2015, we had roughly a population growth in Leon County of about 9,000 individuals, according to the latest demographic estimates. About 8,900 of those were people 50 and older. Now think about that. That's pretty remarkable. We are seeing a demographic shift, the same demographic shift that has occurred in many other places in Florida is now happening in the capital county. That is something that I think is cannot be overstressed. I want to say that we have some additional good news to share with you. We have some, I'm sure you folks have probably noticed that there are a number of new businesses opening in Tallahassee, assisted living facilities, other facilities aimed at the 50-plus population. I'm not sure that y'all had heard that there is a new a 55-plus development that is now slated for Tallahassee. Canopy of 250 homes. And there are some additional efforts that are underway in other communities, in other areas of the county that would also provide additional housing for people 50 and older. Obviously, the business community has noted the demographic shift that I just referred to. Choose Tallahassee cannot take credit for all of this, obviously. There are many complicated factors at play here, but we would like to believe that we've had some role in this. Just let me note that we have been doing some rough figuring, and if we extrapolate from what we believe to be a relatively conservative estimate, we think that just the property taxes on the 250 homes that would be built here would be about $870,000 in property tax revenue to the county. That cannot be bad news in a year in which y'all are facing some of the very tough budget decisions that you face. This is a marketing initiative. This is an initiative to brand this community as a welcoming, open, embracing community for people of all backgrounds, from all parts of the country, to come here and enjoy what we call the best of your life. A marketing initiative that is supported extensively by an all-volunteer community group. We know of no similar initiative that is underway in any other community in the country that is exactly analogous to ours. I want to note that we have received some very welcome offers of support, financial support, from the business community, and they see the same kinds of opportunities here that we see. And we have a number of changes that we see going forward. I'm sure that y'all are aware that during the 2016 contest that we held, we welcomed two new residents of our community, Glenn and Lou Jean Nelson, who are school teachers, former retired school teachers from Chicago, who moved here. They were the winners of our Why I'd Like to Retire in Tallahassee contest. They have now taken up residence. We'll be making an announcement in probably September that will share the news about the Nelsons. The Nelsons are, just as our previous winners, Bill and Kathy Campbell, are tremendous ambassadors for the community. They absolutely love it here. And that is a message that I think we hear time and time and time again from people who move here from someplace else. They absolutely love the quality of life that we have to offer here. To maximize the resources that we have available, we're moving away from one big national winner to a series of smaller contests in 2017 and 2018. We think we'll probably offer a free weekend and possibly time those weekends to coincide with the football season, with Springtime Tallahassee and other things that are happening. And again, we are being sought out by the business community for consultation on issues involving 55-plus housing. There is a tremendous opportunity here. Just let me repeat something that I'm sure I've said to y'all before. There are roughly 78 million boomers. Of them, AARP estimates about 1 in 4 will relocate in later life. That's a market of about 18 million to 19 million people. If 0.3% of those folks relocate, 0.3%, that's not a big market share. Relocate to a community, they would bring $1 billion a year in income to that community. That would be 60,000 people. That's quite a lot for a community this size. But even with the growth that we've seen here, we believe that Choose Tallahassee has provided a very significant return on your investment. We appreciate the support of the County Commission, and we would welcome your continued support. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you so much. Choose Tallahassee is an incredible organization, and y'all do so much to promote our community, and we certainly do appreciate it. I'll open up the floor to any comments. Commissioner Deloche.
Dave, thanks for your work with this. I mean, this has been huge, and you've been kind of a mainstay. I hate to bring this up, but with some of the recent statistics relative to crime, has that impacted or changed? Or, I mean, clearly, if I'm looking for a place to retire or I'm looking for a place to move, and I'm curious, have you seen or have you heard any pushback? Or
We have not heard that directly. I'm sure it is having an impact. I'm sure it is having an impact. Any negative news that's associated with the community is not positive. It can't help our marketing effort. On the other hand, let's just take our contest winners as an example. We may have relatively high incidences compared to a lot of places around the country of property crime. But I don't believe that somebody would, who is from Chicago, would necessarily shrink at moving to Tallahassee because there was too much crime here. So I think it's people evaluate these things differently depending on their particular circumstances. I do think that anything that we can do and everything that we can do to address our crime situation is a blow well struck.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know,
Deloach.
we've got a responsibility as a community to try and get in front of it, but I also like to make sure everybody's talking about the same story, because I'm not sure that just, you know, what you read as a headline is the whole story. And so I know we're going to have a workshop to try and dig down a little deeper, but thank you, yeah.
Commissioner, thank you for your help on this initiative. We very much appreciate it.
Any other comments, questions? Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. And this has been a great program. We're proud of the partnership. Some of you all may have heard, we had an opening presentation at the Florida Association of Counties Conference with someone who did demographic research. And he just made an interesting point that people over 50, later in life, they do pay property taxes. You mentioned that, but there's also a higher demand on services. And I do, yes, this is exactly why I wanted to ask this question, because the benefit we receive as a community for volunteers hours, the expertise, other things like that seems to be a value added. The spending potential seems to be value added. I wondered about that statistic. I mean, yes, when people get much older, there's healthcare demands or other things, but could you, I mean, I'm seeing your reaction here, so could you unpack that a little bit?
Certainly, I would be delighted to do that, to discuss that very point. AARP has done a lot of research on what we call the longevity economy. And I would note that the longevity economy is injecting, either sustains or creates 738,000 jobs in the state of Florida in the course of a year. The economic benefit to the state of Florida is about $29 billion. Social Security alone, just Social Security, which is responsible for about 40 to 45% of the income of people 65 and older. Social Security puts $5.6 billion a year into Florida every month. That is less than half of all income that people 65 and over have. So that's north of $10 billion. We may have heard at some point that tourism is a good thing to have in the state of Florida. It is. Tourism brings in $7 billion a month. That's wonderful. This is even more wonderful. From the standpoint of a government budget manager, one of the things you love to see is when you can reap a significant rate of return on the investment that you put into services. And I would note that while healthcare costs are a very significant portion of the impact that older people have on a community, those healthcare costs are, for the most part, for the population 65 and older, borne by our good friends in the federal government. So that doesn't show up on your bottom line. And I suppose there are exceptions to every rule, but I have not noticed that we have a very significant violent crime problem or property crime problem among this population.
Good answer.
Great.
Yes, very much appreciate that. And that was my gut instinct when I heard, some of you all may have heard that presentation too, and really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you very much. Certainly
you,
do
sir.
appreciate it. I'm going to pass the gavel to Commissioner Lindley.
You have the honor of saluting Dale Walker, I believe. Is that correct?
I would like to ask Mr. Dale Walker and his wife to please come join me. Ladies and gentlemen, these proclamations are bittersweet because it gives us the opportunity to take a second to honor a gentleman that has truly dedicated his entire professional career to county government, but at the same time, we are celebrating his retirement and hopefully sending him off in good measure. Come on over. I'm not going to bite you, Dale. Come on. All right. It's my honor to present this proclamation and allow me to read it. Whereas Dale Walker began his employment with Leon County on July 16, 1975, as a semi-skilled laborer within the Department of Public Works Division of Operations, and whereas Dale held several positions including Foreman 2, Work Control Technician 1, Maintenance Supervisor, Transportation Superintendent, and Director of Operations. And whereas Dale is well known for his hard work and willingness to assist his fellow co-workers through his open door policy, and whereas Dale has been a mentor to many over the years to help them grow in their knowledge and abilities, and whereas Dale has been a dedicated employee serving the citizens of Leon County and willing to do whatever it takes to complete the mission at hand, including working holidays, nights, and weekends to manage Public Works' response to every major storm event that has struck Leon County since 1985. And whereas over the course of his career, Dale has worked for over 42 years within Leon County and was dedicated to maintaining Leon County public infrastructure and providing for the safety, comfort, and convenience of the citizens of Leon County. And whereas Dale has served Leon County citizens with integrity, respect, stewardship, and accountability while demonstrating at all times the practice of people-focused, performance-driven. And whereas Dale's professionalism and dedication will certainly be missed by all Public Works employees, and whereas Dale has entered the life of leisure with over 42 years of committed service to reflect upon, and now therefore, we, the Leon County Board of County Commissioners, do honor Mr. Dale Walker on this 11th day of July 2017 on his retirement, signed by myself and all my colleagues of the County Commission, attested to by the County Administrator. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating Dale Walker on 42 wonderful years at Leon County. So I'm going to go ahead and give Dale the opportunity. You can take as long as you want, Dale. 42 years, you deserve it. Please.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Commissioners, thank you for taking time today to have me here. You know, the debt of gratitude that I have toward Leon County, it's hard to explain. I've been afforded great opportunities. I've made great friends. I've worked through the ranks with the help of many, many friends. And I will ever be grateful for that. No better place to work as a public servant than Leon County. The finest men and women on the face of the earth. And when you wake in the morning and you think of getting ready to go to work, and you think that you're going to serve the public, and you're going to do it with friends and coworkers, and working in an agency that is truly people-focused and performance-driven, that has a vision, that has a heart of service. It's a humbling experience, and I appreciate everything this board has done over the years for the employees. I just have to mention the men and women of Public Works, specifically operations, who have allowed me to be their director, who stood side by side, who's supported me in all that we've done. They work in extreme temperatures, extreme cold, in the midst of hurricanes and storms, and never complain. It's a true privilege to have been allowed to be the director of operations. I can't leave without mentioning a great friend, a great supervisor, and one of the greatest public servants in Leon County and possibly the world, Mr. Tony Park. Tony truly has the heart of a public servant. He has been a great friend to me. This board and the citizens of Leon County are well served by having Tony Park where he's at as Public Works Director. And again, thank you so much for having me here. Thanks to all, I'm not even going to attempt to mention all the names of all the people who have supported me, who's helped me, who stood side by side with me and allowed me to be where I'm at. And without their help, I could not have done it. But again, thank you so much for having me here. Thank you to all of you folks that's helped me, Mr. Administrator, to you and Alan, over the years, your support to our employees and to myself. I appreciate it very much, and thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Hold on, we're going to take some pictures. Tony, why don't you come join us as well for some pictures? And let me go ahead and recognize Mr. Administrator for a few comments, and then we can just make our way around real quick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You may know that we had the opportunity just recently to have sort of a low-key retirement party of sorts for Dale out of Public Works, and we sort of were able to give him his flowers, so to speak, out there. And you should have heard what everybody had to say about him. There were a lot of tears, but once Tony Park pulled himself together, we were able to go on and still have a great send-off. But Dale, again, there's not enough time, but I couldn't let the moment pass without, for the record tonight, just on behalf of all the men and women of Leon County government, to say what a tremendous co-worker Dale has been over the years, and in an organization that holds itself to a high standard of public service, he has been the standard bearer, year in and year out, decade in, decade out. He knows every road, every highway, every street, every trail, every hog trail, every culvert, and even things that are underground that he's told me on site that I was standing on it but couldn't see. And I don't know how we're ever going to deal without him. But again, he leaves us far better than he found Leon County, and he's trained an awful lot of people to be able to step up and take his place. But again, I just couldn't let the moment pass without extending he talked about a debt of gratitude, but the debt of gratitude of his fellow co-workers over these many years, and we're going to miss him a lot. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Lindley.
Right. Well, I just want to echo, too, when I first stepped into the Public Works Department about 5 years ago now and met what just seems like a family. I mean, such a warm feeling. I cannot tell you how moved I was and have been all of this time for the real love and passion you put into service of the public. And I don't think ever has there been a time when that message has been needed more, and you have just carried it out so faithfully, and I thank you for your leadership and for making all of us up here look a lot better than we have any right to look, thanks to you. I appreciate it so much. Hope you have a great retirement.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, Dale, my sentiments same as both Vince and Mary Ann. I do want you to know that although I was out of town for your retirement celebration, I understand that you spoke to my aide and you promised that Oscar Harvey Road would get that culvert finished. And I've talked to Administrator Long, and he said he hasn't signed the final paperwork, so we'll be looking for you soon. But thanks so much for your service, Dale. Really appreciate it.
Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you. Well, I did have the pleasure of attending the retirement, Dale, and I echo what my colleagues and county administrator have said in thanking you. But it was pretty special to be out there, and an example, and this is something that I said out there, but just wanted to share it. Every year, we'll go to the Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner at Public Works, and we'll say, just what you said, Commissioner Lindley, you all make us look good. You know, we get a constituent calling in, we pass them on to you all, and you just take care of it, whether it's you, Tony, your staff. But to stand there and hear the same exact sentiment coming from you to that standing room only group of folks who are working at Public Works, you pass that down. You say they make you look good. You need that team. And that's just really special. That's how we have a great county family. That's why people want to keep coming to work for 42 years. And it's for people like you. So really, truly appreciate that. And just to highlight the number of people who stood up and said, thank you for pushing me to get my degree. Thank you for helping me with my career. There's not many bosses that will do that and really encourage people to keep, putting themselves forward and go for that next challenge, and you do that. So congratulations to you both, and good luck in your retirement. Yes.
Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, I just feel sorry for poor Mrs. Walker. And Vince, we should really leave the light on for Dale, because after 44 years of him getting out and leaving the house and getting on out the door, can you imagine Mrs. Walker now suffering Dale every day? That's life, Mrs. Walker. You should have seen that coming. But truly, Dale represents to all of us this age of transformation. And there are people who we hire, and unless that they, start pressing some buttons to find answers, that's a new age and a new age waiver, a millennial. But Dale is the kind of person who I've never seen go to the computer to press up anything for an answer. And when you have that kind of institutional awareness that supersedes the need to push buttons, that right there tell you what we're losing, y'all. 4 decades says it all. The collegiality, the camaraderie, the competence, and the professionalism within that department under Dale's leadership speaks for itself. And so for the 44 years which you've gifted to our community, and Mrs. Walker, your sacrifices and support, that he would be a leading man in the network of leadership in Leon County, it means a lot to us all. So we wish you fairly well, and we wish Godspeed upon your retirement, and much joy and longevity. Thank you.
Commissioner Deloche?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, Dale, I'll repeat what Commissioner Lindley said, which was y'all do the best job of making us look good. And I learned early on that 99.99% of the work gets done out at Public Works. And I can't tell you the number of times when I've had an issue and somebody's called me and their hair's on fire, whatever the issue is. And a couple hours later, they're calling me back going, oh, those guys are so great. Oh, they took such great care of us. And, y'all continually went during the storms, every little issue. I mean, you guys, you do a great job. And frankly, you, as was said earlier, you set the bar and you will be missed sorely. So congratulations and enjoy the retirement.
Dale, thank you for everything. Certainly appreciate it. Commissioner Dozier, you are recognized for 2 proclamations, and it looks like you might have a little help out there presenting those proclamations.
I could.
Absolutely.
You wanna join me? I got my niece and nephew with me on the summer field trip. You guys want to help me, or you want to stay along? Come on, we want to see you on TV. Yeah, come on up here.
We'll surprise him with this. This is my niece and nephew, Callie and Jackson Rouse, rising first grader and second grader at School of Arts and Science, and they are doing a summer field trip with their mom, Vanessa, who wanted to bring them down to see some of our commission meeting today. They've been hanging out here pretty much all their lives, a little bit, but we have 2 proclamations, and I'm going to ask you guys to stand right there. Yep, because we are going to honor a number of special people, and the first one, Chef Shack. Join me here. All right. And you can sneak right in here. This is Chef Shack. She's going to sneak up behind you. So most people in this room, I mean, really, you had to be out of town a lot or in a different country to miss the big news in recent weeks that our very own Chef Shack won Chopped on the Food Network. And this is a great honor, and we hope she's going back for All-Stars at some point. Some point, yes. And I can't imagine the stress. Maybe she'll tell us a little bit about it, of the pressure of being there. I'm sure most of you have seen the show. But as we were talking about before coming in the chambers today, she's getting a lot of attention. Keys to the city, everything else. This is just a small part of everything she does. So I am really honored on behalf of the board to present you with a proclamation, yes, for your success on CHOP, but really for everything you're doing in our community as an entrepreneur, an innovator, working on an incubator with Kitchen Share, and an inspiration for so many, and really public education on health. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And with that, I will read the proclamation. Whereas Shakafrika Simmons, affectionately known by her professional name, I gotta take these off to read, excuse me, Chef Shack, is a classically trained chef and local creative innovator. Whereas Chef Shack had no clue that when her Bahamian grandfather taught her how to fry eggs, it would lead her to a successful culinary career. We never do know, do we? No. And whereas Chef Shack holds 2 degrees in culinary arts, pastry, and confectionery from prestigious Culinard Culinary Institute and has been preparing culinary masterpieces for over 36 years. And whereas Chef Shack's personal story and willingness to talk about that, about the adversities she has endured, including divorce, eviction, homelessness, and at one point fighting for custody of her 3 children, has been an inspiration to many. Whereas Chef Shack is the owner and culinary architect of Chef Shack LLC, the parent company of several groundbreaking ventures, including Empowered by Food, the North Florida Culinary Incubator, Chef Shack Catering, Life Chef, and the acclaimed Sensory Experience, a fusion of food and art. And whereas her personal and professional success gives her the unique ability to lend her expertise to universities, governments, corporations, celebrities, professionally trained athletes, and children, and as the current culinary instructor at AMI Kids in Tallahassee. That is a long list.
In Gadsden.
In Gadsden County. Oh, yeah, okay, well,
It's okay.
we can amend that.
We
Yes.
good.
We want to give a shout out to our neighbors in Gadsden too, yes. And whereas Chef Shack's motto in food and life is to always keep it flavorful, I like that. And whereas Chef Shack's biggest win recently came as she competed and beat all of her competitors on the Food Network show Chopped, taking home $10,000 and the title of Chopped Champion. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Leon County, Florida, that we honor and celebrate Shakafrika Chef Shack Simmons for being an advocate for local farmers and communities, and for her mission to educate communities and individuals to take ownership of their relationship with food in an ongoing effort to positively impact their health, wealth, and overall well-being. Signed by all the commissioners and county administrator. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here and for
Thank
all
you
you
so
do.
much. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank God first for His grace and favor that He has put upon my life. It means more to be home and be honored than it could ever mean to win Chopped. We don't get $10,000, but still this means more to me. And there's so many people who could be standing here, and I know who are standing here with me in spirit. I'm grateful to my family who has supported me, to the city of Tallahassee who is in different arenas just impacted my life, and I wanted to do the same thing. It's really, easy to go out when you have someone and some people in a community thrusting you out. And I feel like that's what it was. I was thrusted out to represent this community, and I'm glad that I was able to bring home the win. It was hard. You only see an hour of 13 hours of work, but I hope that my work at home speaks much louder than what you saw on Chopped. So thank you so much, Commissioner Dozier. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Take a picture. Oh, yeah.
Chef Shack, congratulations. You got to remind us, what was the winning dish?
Well, it's overall. It's 3 rounds, so it's no one winning dish. It's kind of how you've performed throughout the event, the show.
What was the toughest part?
Oh goodness, the time. Time is always. I'm not. I don't cook in 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So time was definitely my biggest challenge. As you can see, if you watch the show, I had some issues with time.
I don't know if Brian Deloge can make a bowl of cereal in 20 minutes. It'd be tough.
Microwave for that?
Commissioner Proctor, you're recognized.
I believe he could do it in 19 minutes at least. Mr. Chairman, I was just concerned because I was looking at Pastor Greg James and he was licking his chops. And he's always looking for a great chef to join, his congregation. But I just wanted to say, Chef, down at Bethel AME, we have a big old kitchen. We would receive you before Pastor James speaks to you, so just know that we come on down.
Oh, goodness.
All right.
Well, I'm an alarm baby, so Bishop Alvin Stewart is my bishop, and we have a beautiful kitchen, too. So I'm already taken.
All right, I tried.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Certainly
you.
appreciate it. Commissioner Dozier,
Got one more for you, Mr. Chair.
you are recognized for another proclamation.
All right. Got a crew coming up with me. So as our guests from the We Care Network join me, I will transition here and say there's a lot of critical health issues. We talk about these things. We hear about them in the news all the time. I think broadly in our community, whether we're talking about food security, about the farmers markets, about our local programs and partnerships collaboration, we're doing some great things here that could be modeled in other places. And we're going to recognize the 25th anniversary of the We Care program, which is one of those great examples. So I have got a crowd with me, and I'm going to introduce them because these are folks, and I don't think I have everyone on my list. So Pam, you can introduce some others. So Pam Irwin, Capital Medical Society's Executive Director. Rosemary Farrell, formerly of the County Family. We Care. She's not here. Okay, thank you. We Care Network Program Coordinator. Dr. Yvonne Dahl. Yes, yes. We Care Advisor Committee Chair. Jean McCulley. No? Okay. And Shannon Boyle. Yes. Who is the Communications and Event Coordinator. So we have a great team here. And I'm going to read the proclamation, but really, truly appreciate the partnership with the county and all you do for our community. Whereas the physicians of Capital Medical Society desired to create an organization or an organized approach to volunteering their services to those in need, and whereas under Capital Medical Society's foundation, 30 physicians began serving those most in need in Leon County through donations of specialty medical care, and whereas this effort was expanded to serve the fellow citizens in neighboring counties of Gadsden, Jefferson, and Wakulla, and whereas the physicians and dentists partnered to add dental service to the We Care network, and whereas today 320 physicians, 40 dentists, Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare, Capital Regional Medical Center, and numerous and ancillary partners, I knew I was going to stumble over that one, such as Deloge Home Oxygen, no relation correct anymore, and Affordable Dentures are bridging the gap in healthcare to address the needs of low-income, uninsured adults in our community. And whereas during the past 25 years, the physicians, dentists, and ancillary partners, ancillary, thank you. I knew I was going to do it, have donated more than $88 million, and let's just repeat that one, $88 million in medical and dental care to low-income, uninsured adults in our community. And I'll pause again. We know doctors don't have a lot of time to donate a lot. With the paperwork and everything else, this is an incredible gift back to the community. And whereas in the past year alone, almost $4 million in medical and dental care has been donated to those in our community, and whereas the We Care Network is the community's response to the lack of affordable health insurance and narrow eligibility for Medicare, and whereas during the past 25 years, We Care Network has been the only access to specialty medical care for low-income, uninsured adults who fall through the cracks in our healthcare system. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Leon County, Florida, that we recognize and honor the We Care Network for providing access to specialty medical care for low-income, uninsured adults in our community for the past 25 years. Signed by all the commissioners and the county administrator. Thank you all so much for what you do every day and for the past 25 years. Thank you. Yes. Dr. Dahl?
Thank you, Commissioners, so much for your support of our program. As you all know, you are one of our biggest funders, and we could not do what we do every day without you. These are the 4 medical social workers who actually make it all happen every day and coordinate all of the care for our patients, and we're really honored to have been around for 25 years and to have so many physicians and dentists who see it in their hearts to donate their time and talents to those who really are most in need in our community. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Certainly do appreciate you coming.
Yes. Justin's going to want to.
Justin, are you going to corral everyone for a picture?
Yes.
And while Justin is moving forward with the picture, Commissioner Proctor, you are recognized to go ahead and start making your way down for a special proclamation.
You never know. Thank you.
Commissioner Proctor, you are recognized for a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great delight that the Board of County Commissioners allows that I represent them to share this proclamation, noting the outstanding and heroic efforts of Ms. Severia Hurd and her son, Kobe. We have a proclamation which says to the both of you, whereas the greatest test of courage is to bear defeat, and courage is built in all of us. And whereas Kobe Hurd, a 9-year-old boy, and his mother, Severia Hurd, saved the life of a drowning toddler, bringing joy to the victim and his family. And whereas Kobe Hurd, noticing the 3-year-old boy underwater for a few minutes, rapidly grabbed the toddler and sought help. Severia Hurd, registered nurse, immediately rushed over and performed CPR on the toddler until he was revived. And whereas Severia Hurd revived the toddler in moments, thanks to her knowledge and reaction. And Severia Hurd and Kobe Hurd are being called heroes for their responsiveness. We take note of and encourage others to consider and act on Kobe Hurd's mindset. Quote, take care of the people you don't know. You should just help them even though you don't know them, end quote. This mother and son remind us we should never be blind to giving a helping hand because it could save a person's life. And whereas Severia and Kobe Hurd both brought triumph within Leon County, their act of heroism, courage, and bravery will forever be remembered. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Leon County Board of County Commissioners that we recognize Severia Hurd and Kobe Hurd and commend them on a timely and brave act of heroism. We encourage the residents of Leon County to extend to them appreciation for the exceptional humanitarian service they have done for the Shaw family. We wish them much happiness and contentment as this brave act of valor does not go unnoticed. This is dated the 11th day of July of 2017, and it is signed by each of our county commissioners and attested to by our county administrator. We say to you all, thank you for saving that youngster's life, and we commend you for your brave acts. God bless you. You want to say something, Kobe? Okay. Kobe is a man of few words. He just acts and he carries on his beliefs and his convictions. And I think that they have spoken well already. All right.
Just want to say,
Can you use the mic?
we both want to say thank you he is a little overwhelmed. He's like, this is not a place for kids.
It is a place for kids. I'm here.
But again, we thank you. As we don't, still to this day, don't look at ourselves as heroes. It's just another day. But I think that's God telling me to go back to school because I'm actually an LPN. I'm not an RN, so I think that's like my cue to go back. But again, thank you, and we are honored. All right?
Ms. Hurd, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And Colby, you're a superstar. Congratulations, man. Congratulations. All right, finally, I'd like to recognize Matt Cavell from our Public Information Office for a presentation on the Citizens Connect mobile app. Matt?
Thank you, Chairman.
have the floor.
So I just wanted to share, Commissioners, that I'm particularly nervous right now that I might get a grade on my lunchroom voice from Commissioner Jackson. So I'm on edge, but I think we'll be good. So the county administrator had asked me to give a presentation about why the Citizens Connect mobile app is one of the most important apps that you can have on your smartphone. And the reason for that is, while it has a lot of functions, one of the most important ones that I'm going to talk about today is emergency information. Real-time emergency information updates that come to your phone via push notifications so that you can stay safe before, during, and after a disaster. So, believe it or not, Commissioners, one of the most important apps on your phone would be the Citizens Connect app if you live in Leon County, not Facebook, well, arguably maybe number 2 to Facebook, but it would be an important contribution because we need to look no farther than the storm that had happened last month, Tropical Storm Cindy, which had come through on the 22nd of June and had put more than 20 million people under tropical storm warnings. So while we managed to avoid a large impact from that weather, the mobile app's purpose is to express very clearly emergency management information. And one of those features is, since we've launched it in June 1st, we've had nearly 2,000 downloads of the app in just 5 weeks. And we've really pushed the envelope. But someone had asked, well, what's your goal? What's your metric of success for the Citizens Connect mobile app? So that's asking a public information person to do some math, which is scary in and of itself. So when I ran out of fingers and toes, we said 278,000 more. That's our goal. 278,000 more people in Leon County need to download this app because it is that important for people to have on hand. Not just for emergency information, but for other features as well. The mobile app features emergency information, also service requests, not just during a disaster, but when the sky is blue, such as potholes and facility requests and park and recreation coordination and other things. In addition, it gives citizens access to serve on citizen committees, news and updates, social media, and also allows them to access job opportunities for the county. Now, significantly, emergency information is what I want to drill on now. And we have a lot of features in this list, but really what the mobile app does is it puts the user in the emergency operations center that we coordinate for Leon County. It gives you a seat amongst the public safety officials that keep us safe before and after a disaster. It puts you as a mobile app user shoulder to shoulder with information professionals, with our EMS staff, with law enforcement from Sheriff's Office to TPD, to also Tony's crews out in the field in Public Works. There's no better way to receive the most critical updates that you need about tropical storm warnings and road closures and so on and so forth, also like shelter status. You can find real-time mapping about where shelters are open in our county. You can find the capacity at those shelters, whether they are special needs accessible, and also whether they are pet accessible, which means that you can bring your pets to shelter at those shelters. And again, all of this is updated real time during an emergency as we at the county are receiving information as we coordinate emergency management response at the Emergency Operations Center. In addition, one big feature on there is storm debris management, because after Hermine, we know that it had brought large amounts of wind and it left large amounts of debris. So when Hermine had left, our collection schedules were changed, a contractor for debris management, all that. It took us 6 weeks to clean up all the debris after Hermine, and we took out of here, out of our county, what we would normally take out in 2.5 years. So what that means is this app was able to provide real-time updates to our citizens about what the collection schedules were, where we were working, and what resources we had in the field. And that's a specific section in the Emergency Information app. Now, it's not just entirely about emergency information. We also invite citizens to leave feedback and suggestions, because we know that we cannot nor should we do it all alone. And there is a section prominently displayed when you open the app that says, submit to us your suggestions and feedback. And that's important because obviously we coordinate with our bold goal of bringing to life and implementing over the next 5 years 500 citizen ideas. So if we give them opportunities to share that information with us, we can do bigger and better work in county government. So the next bit is you don't have to take my word for it. We held a press conference in the end of June where we were able to partner with the National Weather Service, who, because of the app here, has recognized us as a Weather Ready Nation ambassador. So that means we've exceeded the National Weather Service's standards and protocols for preparing our citizens here locally. And this app is a key part in how we do that, but it's also the professional staff at Leon County Emergency Management that make those kinds of recognitions important. And where it really the rubber meets the ground is with our neighborhoods. So at our press conference also, we had a neighborhood president, Seamus Bruner, share, and as part of Levy Park, County Neighborhood of the Year 2017, Chairman knows, that it was a great app for his citizens, for his neighbors that he lived next to, and he thinks it's a great resource for them to use. So, that being said, while the app has a lot of features, and I just highlighted a few of them, it really does drive home that we're a people-focused, performance-driven government that listens to the citizens that we serve, and this app is a responsive demonstration of that, both during times of emergency and day-to-day operations. So, just wanted to give you a brief overview, and I'm available for any questions you might have.
Fantastic. Thank you, Matt. Commissioner Proctor, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, there is no question that our staff has done a fantastic job with regard to the area of storm preparation, storm management, and the post-storm operations which follow. And Matt has just given the very best presentation I've ever heard him give, and it reflects just how much he's placed his heart into this particular element of his work, storms. And I want to commend you, Matt. You put a lot into this. This seems to be an area that you just migrate to very easily. And I want to thank Vince because and staff for that big report that just shook us all up. Our staff reviewed. They didn't just, talk about, well, we had a few power outages and we put some sand back. They gave us a full-blown major report. That report is a model, it's a classic. I think that any local government should and could use it as a manual. It was excellent. They also did a post-report after the report, and they have continued to, what today tells us is that they're continuing to be innovative on how still to improve our efforts regarding storm management pre, during, and post the storm. So I'm excited. This is a mark of excellence, Vince, and for what we're offering people. I don't know where Regina is, but when you start talking about apps, I think she knows what he's talking about. So I'm counting on Regina to know about these apps. I got some abs and whatnot, my six-pack, but he said, apps. Regina gets that part. So I'm really seeing that we're focused, and as far as I'm able to tell, and I hope that Christian Dozier approves this message, Matt, but as far as I'm concerned, what you've shared today, that report we saw, our ability to move debris 18 months ahead of a schedule, it tells us that in this area, we have quickly become more tight and right, and that's exactly what we want to be, tight and right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Matt. So if I'm not mistaken, at Florida Association of Counties presentation, you said we were at 1,000. Was that right? So,
That was correct at the time.
okay, so about 2 weeks, you've jumped 1,000 out of that 5 weeks.
Yes.
So that's fantastic. I just wanted to note that. This was a great presentation, Commissioner Proctor, but I did hear a portion of Matt and Andy Johnson's presentation at FAC. It was a tough time slot up against homestead exemption, but very well received. And letting you all know, the Appalachia Regional Planning Council Board had been looking for more information. They knew about our after action report, and I believe Matt's talked to the executive director and is going to go down. So this is one more of those examples that not just the app, but the after action report, that we're helping other counties think about what they can do as well, and that's pretty exciting. So thank you for that. My one question is, noting that you jumped 1,000 just in the last couple of weeks, is that the press conference, or is there other ways? I put it out on Facebook a couple times. Are you seeing something that's working better than others to help reach that 278,000 people?
So social media has been pretty effective in moving that needle and getting people directly connected to the store to download it. And the fewer steps we have between me or our team telling you to do a thing and actually doing that thing helps move the needle. So digital promotion has been very effective.
Okay. Well, I really hope our partners keep sharing it as well, and we will. And I think this is the time of year that more people are, prone to connect to it because everybody's remembering the hurricane. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Great, Matt, appreciate it. And before we move to the consent agenda, I have one quick, on a point of personal privilege, presentation. 18 years ago, when I studied in London, England, our next door neighbors to my wife and I were a couple from Denmark, Copenhagen, Denmark, that had newborn twin boys. Fast forward 18 years, let me introduce and ask them to stand. Carl and Torval are visiting from Copenhagen, and they're spending 3 weeks with the Daly family for their American experience, and they wanted to come and see the county commission meeting and see what we do here in America. So, gentlemen, welcome to Leon County and to the States.
Hey, let's give them a hand.
Mr. Administrator, we are on the consent agenda item. Have any of the consent agenda items been pulled?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have no consent items pulled.
Okay, Commissioner Deloge properly moves consent agenda item, seconded by Commissioner Lindley. Any further comment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, passes 6-0. We are now on citizens to be heard on non-agenda items. Do we have any speakers on non-agenda items, Mr. Administrator?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 4 speaker cards, 1 speaker, Mr. Mickey Britt.
Mr. Britt, good to see you, my friend. Your name and address for the record, please. Mr. Britt, tonight we do have a long agenda, as I know you are aware. So I'm going to ask you to please stick with the 3-minute time limit if you possibly can.
I can't.
It's good to see you.
My name is Mickey Britt. I live at 4407 Millwood Lane, Tallahassee, Florida. And what I want to speak about, I've spoken about before, is the unconstitutional drug laws. And it affects every citizen in this county. We're all having to pay for something the government has no right to even do. The government is to protect us from foreigners coming in and attacking us, protect our land, provide infrastructure, not to protect me from me or me from you or you from me. They're ruining families, taking people and putting them in prison. And the wives or the husbands or whoever goes to prison, the other one is suffering immensely. And we're not providing these people any type of health benefit to get rehabilitated. We're costing ourselves tons of money on what is illegal. To show you how illegal it is, the government is now in the states. This is a federal law, so they say. Federal law has no right to pass it. But anyhow, we have this big agenda to vote to legalize marijuana. A federal law, it's against the law. But we voted to legalize it for health benefits. How can we vote against a federal law? If it's the governor and every elected official should be put in prison for aiding and abetting. for aiding and abetting. We have an election to violate the law, a law that should never be passed. They're ruining people's lives. Let us have the right to make the wrong decision. Let us have that right. If I want to go home and get drunk or get high, that ain't none of your business. It's your business if I leave home and harm somebody and do harm to you or somebody else, then put me in prison. But this foolishness about us having drug laws passed by the United States government, every elected senator and congressman ought to be fired because they don't apparently know what their job is. Okay, I'll stop. That ought to be enough. Okay? If you don't get the message, that's your fault. Let me go on to my next subject. This is for you and for the governor. Y'all had a gentleman come in here and talk about how great Tallahassee is. The state of Florida is great. Why are we not getting people here to move in besides old folks? Huh? Old folks see us here as a nice place to live, an economical place to live. Why is y'all want business to come here? Why are you not getting in business? Jesus Christ, take an ad out someplace and get business to come here. Why is the governor not got all kind of business? You know how many people, if you have a 10,000 employees come to a company to work here, how many people that actually brings? 10,000 employees. 75% of them are married. That's another 7,500. Out of that marriage, there's 1.5 children. That's another over 10,000. So you have 27,500 people right there. Guess what you have? Walmart, movies, everything. You wind up with about 40 or 50,000 people because there's people coming in to do business for all those people that are here. And we ain't getting nobody from Seattle, Washington, California, Massachusetts. Where are those people at? Going to Texas. Huh. Y'all should be on the phone, taking out ads. Y'all talk about you want Tallahassee to be better. Tallahassee's pretty good. What about Bristol, Florida? Bluntstown, Gretna, places that have no business.
Mr. Britt, I'm going to ask you respectfully to wrap up, please, sir.
That good enough for you? All right. Now let's go on to the third thing I was going to talk about.
Mr. Britt?
Filled out 3 cards. Give me 3 times.
No, sir. No, sir. We've got a time limit, but I'm going to ask you to please
all right. This was not
respectfully
going to take long. Once again, let me preach to the governor. We got rest areas all along the interstates. Why do we not lease an area for McDonald's or Wendy's or IHOP, you name it, lease it to them, sell product there. We make money. Truck drivers are there. People are parking. They got a built-in clientele. Why are we not doing that? Why are we not making money? Why? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Britt. Certainly appreciate it. Mr. Administrator, do we have any other citizens to be heard on non-agenda items?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do not.
We are on general business, item number 22. Mr. Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, this item seeks your approval to negotiate and execute a contract for aerial mapping services for Tallahassee, Leon County. This has been budgeted and is the recommended firm scored, which scored the highest in this competitive procurement. We have no speakers on this item.
I have no commissioners in queue to speak. Okay, Commissioner Deloge moves staff recommendation option number 1, seconded by Commissioner Dozier. Any commissioners in queue to speak on the motion on the table? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, passes 6-0. Mr. Administrator, item number 23.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, this item seeks your approval to award a bid to Dowdy Plumbing in the amount of $395,500 for construction of the St. Mark's Headwaters Greenway The Trailhead, this has been budgeted, and this is the lowest responsive bidder for the project. We have no speakers on this item.
Commissioner Proctor, you're recognized.
Curious as to, and help me to understand, why is a plumbing company dealing with the headwater instead of an engineering company? And to note that Allen's Excavation made a bid effort. This type of work, I'm not certain, but it does not sound a little closer to Allen's expertise versus the plumbing company doing this kind of work. So I just want to be secure that a plumbing company outside doing some headwater work at St. Mark's, could y'all help us understand?
Sure. Mr. Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Proctor, I asked the same question. You did. So I appreciate it. And no, they are a duly qualified firm, met all of our specifications on the job, and are able to carry out. They were completely responsive in the low bid on the job.
Say no more.
I have no other commissioners in queue to speak. Commissioner Lindley has moved staff recommendation of option number 1, seconded by Commissioner Jackson. I have no commissioner to speak on the motion on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, passes 6-0. Mr. Administrator, item number 24.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, this item seeks ratification of your June 20th fiscal year 2018 budget workshop. After funding the final budget adjustments at your June workshop, staff recommends that the balance of the additional property tax revenue, again based on our final estimations, be used to reduce the amount of budgeted fund balance, as you can see in the analysis. However, we're happy to receive any additional direction you may have in the development of the final budget, which will be back before you at your public hearings in September. Finally, Commissioners, just let me thank you all for the good guidance that you've provided throughout this process to us. And I believe we are as well positioned as any local government in Florida to continue our good work and meet the challenges that lie ahead. And with that, happy to answer any questions you might have. We have no speakers on this item as well.
Thank you. I've got Commissioner Proctor, Lindley, Deloge, and Dozier. Commissioner Proctor, you're recognized.
Thank you. Commissioners, there's no doubt that we have some challenges in the years ahead with our budget. That is not immediate with the homestead exemption. We're anticipating potential loss of revenue in our future should that measure pass on the ballot in 2018. Certainly, we have also heard of a very quiet affair occurring in our community today. And this really is a somewhat of a sad day for public servants in our community because anytime you render public service and there is a need for a grand jury to review your activities, your actions, your operations, it makes for all of us to view this day as one with pause. I would suggest to us that in spite of what we're hearing, that we would suggest to staff that they would bring a budget back that would anticipate potentially our pulling out of the downtown CRA. I think that the budget that we have, I'm well pleased with much of what we have done. I'm not totally happy 100% across the board, but we've been in some tight spots, and we have tried to fulfill our expectations of the public upon us. We have maintained the tax base, our millage rate makes sense, and even though we are always have the tension of the majority of the property of our community not being on the tax roll, that we have to do with what we got to work with. Today, Commissioners, I'm asking us to place on pause and to end our relationship with the downtown CRA. And I think that we have a responsibility, given the climate, not imaginary, not alternate facts, but the reality of a number of documents, about 90,000 I read today, that are under review. This is neither to indict myself to suggest that I myself have done anything, or nor is it to suggest that either of you or our colleagues down the street have done anything. But the level of speculation and the public perception, and sometimes perception actually beats reality. Sometimes perception is stronger than reality. And as I watched our show, our television, Channel 16, this past weekend, its wholesomeness, the genuine efforts of serving the public that we provide, our good name, our honor, our reputation, all of that is not enhanced when we're engaged with that which has the perception of being greatly suspicious. And so you know the story as well, perhaps, as I. I don't think it gets better. I think that given the reputation that we have developed, we owe, and it's a part of our stewardship duty, to provide to this community the best look, the highest levels of public service that are beyond reproach. I think that we maintain that level of goodwill and being above reproach when we sever our ties to an entity that, as far as I'm able to discern, that forecast is going to be murky, it's going to be stormy, and I see no reasonable good. And so while our staff is projected that in 2020 we might sever or end this relation, I suggest that, and I want to thank Vince for his response, that if there are any obligatory residue left, let's write a check and pay for it and cut our ties and cut our losses. That's what you do in lawsuits when it don't look good, when it ain't no win. Even when you win, you write a check and you cut your losses because you want to save your name. And I think that in this instance, if we owe somebody some money, I can't see how, and I've never read in any statute where a constitutional comprised unit like ours as a local government is duty bound to a CRA. There is nothing in my understanding of our constitutional role which subjects us to a CRA. So if we have obligations, I can't imagine our obligations. We are the ones who have surrendered money to the CRA. We are the ones who have allowed for the segregation of monies to a downtown area which is denied into the general revenue and operational budget of the rest of the community. It's the rest of the community that takes the loss. So I think that we have a responsibility that when, I mean absolutely when, there is an appearance of unquestionable conduct, that we would cease and desist, or at least minimally suspend our commitments until there is clarity. Otherwise, we give the appearance of aiding and abetting whatever it is. And I think that's a look that I'm not wanting to do. Now, this budget, I want to make it clear that I am, have seen the laborious effort that have been put into comprising it. It's a pretty good budget, but I need to say that if we're unable to resolve our support, to temper it, or to bring back before the final alternative to something that looks at severing our ties in support of the downtown DRA as a matter of conscience, in respect for the totality of our community and the pulse of our community, I can't vote for this budget with the downtown CRA component engaged with Leon County for 2017-18. And I'm not trying to stunt anything like that. It's just that I really believe we owe the SS Leon County a different course. We owe the SS Leon County a calmer sea. And we should not be heading and putting taxpayers' money into something which is highly suspicious, and I'm not going to do that. So I wanted to lay my cards on the table in front of all of my colleagues, and I'm anxious to hear your thoughts as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lindley, you're recognized.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I wanted to speak on another topic at the budget later, but on this topic, I just wanted to make it clear, at our June 20th meeting, we did vote, I believe unanimously, to withdraw from the downtown CRA in response to the constitutional amendment, which we all assume is going to pass, and as a way to adjust our budget accordingly, so we can keep up with that. So I think it's important for our residents here to note that we are interested in the CRA issue as a budget item for our county, separate and apart from information that came out following our June 20th meeting regarding an investigation by the federal government into the downtown CRA. So to me, there are two issues here very clearly, and I was wondering if the county administrator could speak to us about what kind of time frame would be affected as if Commissioner Proctor is interested in pulling out of CRA or considering that, having an agenda item to consider that with this budget, or if we proceed with the process, which I know is complicated for the 2018-2019 budget year. I know it's an incredibly complex withdrawal. We have obligations and so forth. So could you talk to us about that a bit?
Mr. Administrator.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Lindley, Commissioners, thank you. Yes, in summary, first of all, let me just say that in essence, I don't believe that I don't think that the ratification that's before you tonight on this action really differs very much from the spirit of Commissioner Proctor's comments in terms of proceeding forward with the dissolution of the downtown CRA, and at least moving forward with that intent from the county standpoint. Given the legal structure that we're involved, it would require the city and the county, and so you've given us the clear direction to commence that process. It would be the beginning of that process, and it could move rather quickly, or depending on if there are any issues the city, again, as a party to the agreement, would like the board to consider further. And you could think about what those might be, modifications to boundaries, et cetera, et cetera. Those may be coming back to you again, or they may be in a similar policy position as you, and it could go very quickly. But it will require the two of us. We've given ourselves a little lead time. And again, for all intents and purposes, I think what this ratification will do, I have a letter ready to go with today's date on it for the city manager, which, again, upon your ratification tonight, will begin that process. And I think the first matter of business will be to not incur any new obligations, obviously, in the downtown CRA, and again, start the dissolution process. So it's a little hard to say because there are a lot of moving parts, but if it's the board's intent tonight, and if you wish to add any further direction to that, again, our intent is to begin immediately along the process and bring it back to you as soon as possible.
Commissioner Lindley, you still have the floor.
Thank you. Okay, as I understand it then, if we vote tonight to go forward with our budget recommendations, the withdrawal, the process to pull out of the downtown CRA for the county could begin as much as tomorrow morning when your letter goes forward. So we would begin the process. We have a meeting, a Community Redevelopment Agency meeting on Thursday. I think there are some new proposals regarding the downtown CRA, which, speaking for our board, I mean, we can make our own decision on whether we want to go forward with those at this time. And so I'm appreciative. I'm comfortable with where we are, that we are starting the process. And I'm, also comfortable with our current budget status for this coming year. I think it incorporates what Commissioner Proctor is interested in doing, and I understand your sense of urgency, but to me, they still are two separate things, honestly, our our budget considerations with the CRA. Thank you.
Commissioner Lindley, do you want to speak? You said you had another point. You still have the floor. Do you want to go ahead and speak to the budget?
Okay, well, yeah, I will, unless there are other people who want to speak on this aspect. The other thing I wanted to talk about was, I saw that we have $87,000 that came in slightly over budget of what we had anticipated earlier. And I know that Commissioner Deloge and I are both working on a couple of separate but similar projects regarding crime and public safety. And I'm working on one regarding pretrial incarceration numbers, and I believe you are working with civil citations. Both of these are issues addressing the jail population and various issues regarding our prisoner population. So I was wondering, I would like to make a motion that we set aside the $87,000 that we weren't anticipating for one-time expenses to be or uses to be considered following our September 12 workshop on public safety. When we can, right, I think that would be a good time for us to sort of wrestle with some of the things that we might be able to use that money on usefully.
Okay, so the motion on the table is not for any of the options, 1 through 11, at all. The motion on the table is just right now to set aside the $87,000 that has been identified by staff as unencumbered funds, shall we say, in this proposed budget until...
Well, we have our September 12 workshop
Right.
on public safety to address the crime issues in our community, so is that a amendment or a new, I'm not even sure the posture we're in on that.
Mr. Administrator.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. I think the motion, which was seconded, was clear to us, is that we would roll it into the FY18 budget and show it as available for the fiscal year.
Okay, I'll ask the maker of the motion, do you want to include the staff recommendations?
For items 1 through 11?
1 through 11?
Yeah.
With the understanding that the $87,000 that are unencumbered in the proposed budget be brought forth during the September meeting after the public safety workshop. Okay. That motion was made by Commissioner Lindley, seconded by Commissioner Deloge. I've got Deloge, Dozier, Jackson, Maddox, and Proctor in queue to speak, but Mr. Vice Chairman, did you want to speak on point specific? Okay. Commissioner Deloge, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's a great thing, Commissioner Lindley. I think, we're working kind of separately. I think we'll end up in a similar place, but, people need to realize we have a jail budget that exceeds $30 million a year for Leon County. It's not an insignificant amount of money. We have as a country, we have 5% of the world's population. We have 25% of the people incarcerated in our jails across the country. And jails in particular are about 12 million people processed annually. The entire state and federal prison system is only 2 million people. So counties are at the forefront of this whole criminal justice thing, and the civil citation is a way to head off, at least from my perspective, people that shouldn't be in our jails, and that their lives get redirected. It takes people that really can't make bail or have low-level nonviolent crimes, and I think for yours is a similar one, which is let's figure out a way on the front end to keep them from going into our jails. And I think the amount of money we spend on our jail, if we start reducing the jail population just in a small number, the payback for us would be huge. So I think this is a responsible thing to do, and I'll wait till we have the workshop to kind of flesh out where we go with this. But thank you. Good motion.
Commissioner Dozier, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Two separate issues. I'll address the budget in general and the amendments, and then I'll get back to CRA if you don't mind. I had a few questions and a comment on that. I appreciate the amendment, Commissioner Lindley, for the $87,000. I think that's fine to keep it designated for that purpose. As we talked about at the last meeting, we heard from both of you that you've been working on these separate tracks, but similar, as you said, Commissioner Deloge. And I think I mentioned some things about fines, and there's a lot of other issues here that may come out. Really looking forward to that workshop. So we may need more. We may need partners. We may need less. I don't think your amendment does anything but just set aside that fund in case there are ways that we can address some of these issues. Is that correct? Okay. I think this is really an important step, but having something kind of in the bank, as it were, before our workshop, I think is a good thing. And with that, just the last comment on the budget side, this was a complicated year, and I think whether it was at the FAC conference, Florida Association of Counties conference, or even the day after our budget workshop in a meeting with Tallahassee Builders Association, I know the county administrator went to Rotary. The feedback from the community, even if some people are concerned about this, but the feedback when we start talking about why we're considering our option 2 in the budget, and the cuts that may have to be made if homestead exemption passes, I've gotten really good feedback from people across the political spectrum. So I just wanted to really thank our staff for getting ahead of this, from other commissioners, from other counties across the state, other staff that I heard from. They just think we got it right of really doing this early. So I appreciate that. It gives us time to hear from the community and to dig in. So thank you for that. On CRA, Commissioner Lindley, I appreciated you digging into the Thursday meeting and kind of what we're getting ready to discuss at CRA. Ms. County Administrator, I fully support the letter. I guess I had a couple other questions, but I wanted to start with, I guess this is our first chance to talk about the discussion that you've brought up, Commissioner Proctor, in the last few days. First, I don't want to do anybody's job for them by saying that we're all guilty by association. There's a lot of us, and 4 people sitting on this board who are on the CRA board, and all of us collectively on this board who have been raising questions and pushing for greater efficiency at the CRA for years. And I think there's a lot of strong progress that we can show. A lot more needs to be done. So I'm really hoping whatever happens, whatever they're looking at, thankfully it didn't touch anybody on the county side. I don't think it should have, and I think it's proven by that. But I wanted to get to a quick resolution because we are doing a lot of good things, and as we've mentioned, the perception of this could be bad, like the crime rate and other things like that. We've got too many good things going for us. The other part of that, though, is just pulling out of the downtown CRA. I guess I'm a little confused about the argument there. I mean, if it's tainted by association with the CRA, then there are 2 CRAs. We are only discussing pulling out of one, not the Frenchtown Southside CRA. So I support that for budget reasons, but I think the Frenchtown Southside is finally getting some energy. We're about to see a $5 million infusion once Firestone and Bloxham building are sold. That's really going to help the Frenchtown Southside CRA. I think efficiency, transparency, those types of things, we got to keep pushing for that as we have been in recent years, and now more than ever, perhaps. I think others may push for that as well. So I think that's a slippery slope to start thinking that just pulling out of downtown solves any type of problem. It does. I mean, that's completely separate, as you said, Commissioner Lindley. We made that decision days before I think any of us knew about this, right? So with that, Ms. County Administrator, I could use your help on this. We are going into a CRA meeting on Thursday, and there is an agenda item discussing the dissolution of the downtown CRA. CRA staff is putting out a suggestion that there is a report that they could bring back by January of 18, and they are suggesting business as usual until that time. And as Commissioner Lindley said, there are 2 projects under consideration for this Thursday. So because this is direction, if we approve this vote, Mr. Chair, for the budget, that the full county commission would like to withdraw from the downtown CRA, my question is, 1, is CRA staff directing this report? Or I believe what I have heard from you, this is more of a city commission and county commission job, and therefore the report internal to CRA wouldn't be necessary, and their time frame wouldn't necessarily be required because this would be based on whatever you and the city manager work out. Is that right?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Administrator.
Commissioner Dozier, I think the CRA direction that you referenced is one that doesn't recognize this action tonight. And I think that's important because I think as a city department, essentially, that direction may very well change in meaningful ways once myself and the city manager sit down and the city manager gets his direction relative to the larger policy issues from the city commission, because the agreement is between the city commission and the county commission. As I mentioned, it doesn't provide for really any unilateral actions to be taken relative to this, but requires a dissolution happen between those two bodies. So I would expect that position at the CRA changes considerably based on your action tonight.
Okay. Well, certainly for myself, and I would expect for my colleagues on the CRA board, it would be helpful. I'm very glad you're going to send that letter should this vote pass, and it would be helpful to know that and have some guidance for Thursday, since that agenda item will be up for discussion at the CRA meeting. And within that, I will say that there is one new, potential new project that the staff has put in under an agenda item for Thursday's discussion. I'll just say it now, I'm not in favor of that, because if we're going to consider this, I think we can't have any new commitments, and the development community and business community needs some assurances. But the Firestone Blossom redevelopment has been going for 2 years, and it is unfortunate that all of this everything else is happening when that development agreement is under review this week and then coming in for a landing hopefully in September or soon thereafter. So I guess I would love some direction now or by Thursday. It seems like we've been working on that particular one a long time, and if there was one last project that we were to commit funds to, that might be one we want to consider to keep it moving, since so much money has been expended already in developing the RFP, and the developers certainly put a lot of money into that, having been awarded the project. So any suggestions on that tonight would be helpful, or before Thursday.
Commissioner Jackson?
I'm sorry, County Administrator, did you have a comment there?
Just clarification, which may settle the issue. I was looking over to Ken. That project may be in the Southside CRA.
No, sir.
It is in downtown?
It's downtown
Okay.
CRA, but the sale of the property, that's part of the $5 million that will go back to
That's
Frenchtown Southside because the O'Connell property switch? Yes, sir. So it is in downtown. So if we commit, say, tax, abatement or any other incentives to that project, there will be a commitment outside of 2020. So I think some direction on the Cascades Park project would be helpful. Is that?
We will, we'll take a look at that, and anything that's relevant that goes to that, we'd be happy to provide to you prior to Thursday.
Thank you, Mr.
Commissioner Jackson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Proctor, thank you for your comments, especially the ones regarding transparency and responsibility. I appreciate that. Secondly, I want to commend the county administrator and his staff at the expense of sounding redundant, the options that were brought before us at the June 20th meeting. Of those options, 3 out of 4, I believe, included separation from the CRA and their foresight in that. Immense amount of work went into the budget and to preparing those options and studying how they would impact us in relation to the homestead exemption if it were to pass, and we need to be especially thankful for that work and having the ability to see beyond now and into the future. Again, thank you, staff, and thank you for your comments, Commissioner Proctor.
Commissioner Proctor, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. It's one thing we have to be very, very clear. Let me first isolate a comment on the budget. Is the LIFT program, Mr. Administrator, included in the package as it was the previous year on just the budget itself?
Mr. Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. And I don't think that the LIFT program in particular is a line item, but I think it's funded through the PSCC. I'm sorry, Wanda, why don't you come up to the front? What I was beginning to say was that I believe that the PSCC dollars are appropriated at the same amount, but I think the PSCC has the ability to determine, again, or to make a recommendation as to where those dollars go. But Wanda, please, if I misstated that.
It has been contemplated in the budget this year to allocate $100,000 for the PSCC's discretion in terms of funding a program that meets your objective of reducing the jail population. So after the budget passes, then the PSCC may provide a recommendation to the board as to how those funds should be spent.
Okay, thank you. Consistent with Commissioner Deloge's comments about reducing that jail population, the PSCC, that's its statutory responsibility. And our need thus for the continued and sustained funding helps it to do. And that LIFT program plays an inordinate role in teaching skills to reduce recidivism, which helps. So I was wanting to be clear that in the questions that, as chairperson of that PSCC, that I'm able to relay accurately information, because I didn't, see it by name, and I didn't want to assume anything. So, okay, this is very helpful. Thank you, Wanda. That was my budgetary ask. I had a couple questions, and I think that it's very, very clear, members, that the Board of County Commissioners in total, the Board of County Commissioners is not a member of the CRA. We have merely 3/5 citizenship on the CRA, and that's very critical. When it comes to the Blueprint Intergovernmental Agency, we share equal seats with the City Commission. Our full panel is seated. Their full panel is seated. When it comes to the, what's that stuff with zoning and comprehensive plan and all of that, we are all seated, the full City Commission. When it comes to transportation decisions for our region, we're all seated. But when it comes to the CRA, we ain't all seated. We only have 4 people out of 7. We only have 3/5 representation. We ain't a whole player at the table. So we're not going to get merely 3/5 of the associated perception of, ooh, we're going to get 4/4. We're going to get 5/5, 7/7 of the perception. Why are we so supportive to a process and an instrument of governance that does not even respect our board, and the city, in their royal highnessness, disallows and tells us we ain't good enough to have our whole membership there? That right there is the arrogance that have been going on for the whole, since this thing, from the giddy up. That's how long it's been going. So why are we so committed to this instrumentality of governance that even disallows, disrespects, and will not seat our county commission, but we're yielding up millions of dollars for the directions and the directive of the city commission, who has their whole starting team? We got players on the bench that can't get in the game. Something is wrong. I hate that. Now, we need to recognize that these people are the city, and all of the asks have gone to 300 South Adams Street. Not one subpoena. When you get words like, I'll tell you the words you get together. You get words like FBI, words like subpoena, words like grand jury. Them kind of words get together and you stir them up, and oftentimes it's not good, the outcome, them kind of words getting together. And we don't even have our whole team. But I tell you, Mr. Chairman, don't nobody know you're not a member. Don't nobody know Deloge is not a member. You're going to be just as stanked up by what's on the fan circulating as any and the rest of us who are there. Because ain't nobody going to know that Jackson ain't. It just said some county commissioners, nobody knows. So all of us, we're being disrespected. And we shouldn't respect something that does not respect us. Every one of those subpoena documents did not come to 301 South Monroe Street. Every last sheet of paper that was sought, which means that they're the keeper of the records. We're not. We just the tail. They're the head. And I don't think that we should support that. And I think that in what we're doing here now, we need to draw a line in the dirt and stand up for our citizens and their desire to see some government around here stand up and say, we want wholesome, we want to be beyond reproach, we want a clean government that ain't all tied up in stuff called subpoenas, FBI, grand jury, and who knows, very soon, we might hear the I word, indictment, who knows. We have a chance today to pull up, to give immediate instructions to our staff to not wait to 28. Why would we listen to the staff of the CRA telling us to pursue business as usual to 2018? Well, if I was getting a paycheck from us, I would give y'all the same thing. But last time I checked, we should be in charge of the staff, and the staff don't tell us what to do. Okay? County is not beholden to CRA. We're actually giving to the CRA. We're giving to the whole city commission with 3/5 of our bench seated, but they got all of their players, and they got more clout and power, and they controlling the cards. They dealing. They got it. Well, let's pull up and get up out of this thing. Now, finally, I want to ask Vince, when you say that we are the process that will go in place to repeal our support of the downtown CRA, the process, how soon does this process play out? I mean, I don't want us to get lost and bogged down without a timetable with clarity on the steps of dissolution and dissolving from that instrument.
Mr. Administrator.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Commissioner Proctor. And Herb, too, I'll invite you to chime in whenever you'd like, County Attorney. Not that you need the invitation. But Commissioner Proctor, it varies a little bit. Again, based on your direction tonight, I've got clear direction to begin that process, and you will get back again, because we couldn't move prior to your ratification tonight, you will get a process before you very soon, which outlines that. Again, it could go very quickly, but because it is not a unilateral process, but one which requires the county and city to dissolve together, there could be, and that's the reason why we didn't put any timetable on it at this point, there could be requests, desires, modifications, et cetera, that come from the city commission relative to the dissolution, which we would have to bring back to you for your consideration. So it's hard to put a timeline on it. I can tell you that, again, we've got your direction. The direction that I'm receiving to you, which is memorialized in a letter to the city manager with today's date on it, will say that I've got the direction to begin that process and move forward as quickly as possible. You'll be getting a progress report to you soon. Again, on what the specifics are. Again, it's tough for us to say exactly what the process would be because we would need to hear from the other party to the agreement, which is the city commission.
Right. How much, that still is not clear. I hadn't seen your letter, and I'm sitting up here no more clear than when I asked the question. Okay? So that doesn't move the dial of the needle for me. How much money do we relinquish from our coffers in supporting the downtown CRA? Is that clear?
$1.7 million.
$1.7 million. So in order for us, I mean, if you need to fire somebody, I mean, we have fired, I remember we fired the janitorial service like bam, just nailed them. I remember one time when I believe Memorial Hospital just told us we ain't doing the ambulance no more. And they just quit. And we just picked it up. I mean, we can stop and just say we ain't going, what we going to get sued for choosing as a county commission to not yield $1.7 million to the downtown CRA? What we going to get sued by? They ain't our daddy, okay? We don't owe them nothing. So it's up to us on if whether or not we grant permission. We don't have to have the city and nobody else to tell Leon County that we want to give away $1.7 million every year. We're just giving away $1.7 million every year because we just 3/5 citizens and we acting like we merely 3/5. Let's stand up and not throw our money behind perhaps potentially bad operational procedures. One thing I want to compliment Commissioner Dozier on, I mean, she's the champion. She has been the champion. In the absence of our full team being at the table, she has time and again held up the bloodstained banner for operational proficiency. She has time and again said, I think that we need to standardize our processes of what we're doing. And she has called over and over that our staff that seems unwilling, unable to solidify its practices, its processes, that we would not be at the point of those three words coming together like FBI and subpoena and grand jury. Kristen, I respect you. I mean, there's no question. The record is clear about what you have called for a long time. But we have not reached that standard for what you have really been calling for a long time. In the absence of a staff bringing that kind of process, that kind of standardization of our operations, we should not support it or place our support on pause until they pull up. The only thing I hear that staff saying, instead of meeting the charge, the demand for the excellence in administrative, what we're doing, that will not lead all of us to look like potentially how we might be perceived, is had they followed what you've been asking for. Dane did it, but they're very clear. They need to go down there, and we need to stay with them till 2018. Like to me, they're looking for a paycheck. I'm not willing to give them one. I'm willing to pull the plug on this. However, I want to make a motion. I will not make a substitute motion, but I want to make sure that because there is no date in Vince's letter that I know of, there is nothing that says, and it seems that you're reticent about pursuing an immediate withdrawal from a bad situation on that downtown CRA with those lack of, you said that this could happen. You've said that, Kristen, and I really respect you because you always said it. And here we are today. It's not a good look today. And ladies and gentlemen, I just want for the world to know that my inability to support this budget of more than a lot of money is because of $1.7 million that today we should pull the plug. And we could pull that plug, and county attorney, is there any retribution that we pull the plug today? I mean, do we owe the CRA some money when we the ones who are giving it to them?
Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, the answer is yes. We have obligations, statutory and contractual. I'm not saying that those are not able to be resolved, but it's pretty clear to me, as with Mr. Long, the board has, if you approve the motion that's on the floor right now, has instructed us, the county attorney's office and the county administration, to immediately pursue the resolution of the issue of our participation in the downtown CRA. We will have to do that in a cautious way, but there's no doubt in my mind the immediacy by which the commission wants that done. And so whether we can give you a bright timeline or know that we're going to be working like crazy, I'm not the lawyer to the CRA, so I'm not really clear on what obligations, and I'm using that word broadly, the CRA has. There may be none. There may only be moral obligations, and that's a political and policy question that would be for you all to decide. But don't rest assured that we're not going to just say, well, maybe we'll get around to it in August or September. No, it starts tomorrow, and we're going to work on it and get it done as soon as we possibly can without jeopardizing our funds.
Okay, Mr. Attorney, one other question. You've heard of this word, indictment. Is it not true that in the state of Florida, that upon a felonious indictment of an elected official, that person or persons is immediately suspended from office pending the outcome? Is that true?
They are able to be suspended by the governor, yes.
Okay. Have we ever known a person in Florida, in local politics, who was charged with a felony that was not suspended by the governor?
Not in my tenure.
Okay. If in fact, given the fact that we don't know what's going to come out the oven, we know something got pushed in the oven and could be pretty heated. And I guess sometimes cooking, I did ask Chef Shack for some cooking lessons today. I did ask for a little help in that. But I didn't ask her how fast and how much heat, but I think how much heat you put on something also has something to do with how fast it can come out the oven, I think. And it depends on how much heat is dropped on what was put in the oven today may impact a word like indictment. Would we be obligated if indictments came upon the CRA or indictments came relative to information that was shared? Would we still be, as a government, obligated to support an indicted entity?
I don't think the entity will be indicted.
Are there circumstances that you foresee for which indictments could fall, for which we would still, I'll use the word moral duty, have a moral duty to support, in particular when the structure that allows for what Commissioner Dozier has called and championed for a long time, it lacks the operational safeguards?
I'm speculating, but my speculation is that it is possible that a hold could be placed on the entirety of the operation. Yes.
All right. If, given the nature of some things that we've read around the state with CRAs, and we all are also familiar with public outcry against CRAs, and that they've been called all manner of names, from slush funds to worse, we could suspend immediately. I mean, immediately, our support. We're speculating.
I don't believe that you can unilaterally not meet your financial obligations unless and until that document is modified.
Okay.
That's my goal.
Commissioners, when I'm the donor, I don't see where I'm obligated. This is a voluntary act on our part. The CRA does not tax us. We're not owing taxes to the CRA. We simply have agreed with a philosophical idea that we want to mitigate blight and to upgrade areas that are lacking in their presentation. From a moral perspective, it's highly difficult to consider that there is blight in the downtown CRA of Tallahassee. And if we're following the letter, even the spirit of the law, there is nothing about the downtown CRA to which are improving its blighted conditions. To me, mandates our support of it, notwithstanding its failure to have operational standards that for which the FBI would not be interested in. This is very difficult. I don't think that this is the same thing as when the legislature told us that we could not pass a law that prohibited people shooting across the street into the park. Now, they told us that we just was told we couldn't, the gun things we couldn't do anything about. And there are a couple other things that we've been told, but this has not been told on the CRA. So I'm not caving into this obligation. We are voluntarily giving money, $1.7 million, to processes which are highly suspectful. I won't belabor the point. It's nearly time to eat. And so, Mr. Chairman, I want to respect that the food may be awaiting us. Thank you.
Let me just remind you, the motion on the table made by Commissioner Lindley, seconded by Commissioner Deloge, is for options number 1 through 11. And in addition, having identified $87,000 of unencumbered funds in the proposed budget to be carried forward for the September meeting for discussion after our workshop, I have Commissioner Maddox and then Commissioner Dozier in queue to speak. Mr. Vice Chairman.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I'll be very succinct in my comments. I do agree with Commissioner Parton on one thing. We have talked about equal voting weight on the CRA for a long time. I still agree with you on that. I believe that we should either have equal voting weight or our whole board be allowed to sit on that committee. When I made the suggestion to the board back at the retreat that we sunset the downtown CRA, I made it with the thought that the downtown CRA work was done. That blight no longer existed to the point that we needed a CRA in the downtown area. As I sit here before you today, I still think the same thing. We don't need a downtown CRA because blight no longer exists by definition of what blight is in the downtown CRA. Very comfortable with my position on that. But I think you can look back and you can see through some of the projects that have been done in the CRA that some good works have been done with the downtown CRA and the money that's been spent in the downtown CRA. I would venture to say that the people who have served on this board, who have also served on the downtown CRA, have done the most ethical job they could do on that CRA, and I believe that the county commissioners that sit here today, that sit on the CRA board, will continue to do the same. So I don't want things to be confused here. This isn't about the article or the FBI. This is about a completion of work in the downtown CRA. My vote for this measure, my vote for the budget, my vote for the letter being sent to the city is just because of that, because the work is done. Nothing more, nothing less. The work in the downtown CRA is done. It's time for us to move on. But if you look at what's going on in Frenchtown Southside, there's still work that needs to be done there. Before I would take the opportunity to bash what CRAs do, what I'll do is I'll try to correct some of those things that we would like to see done better, so that the Frenchtown Southside CRA has an opportunity to have the same effect in the area that the downtown CRA had. And one day we can sit up here and say the same thing about the Frenchtown Southside CRA, that the work is done. The work is done. That's the day that I'm living for us to be able to sit up here and say the same thing about an area that is obviously blighted by anybody's measures, in anybody's eyes, to sit here and say the work there is done. Is the processes of the CRA perfect? No, we got a lot of work to go, a lot of work to do there. But work is what we need to do, and I'm proud to sit on that board. I'm proud of the work that we've done on that board, and the way that this commission and the representatives from this commission to that board have operated on that board. And so I will vote in favor of the motion, and thought the $87,000 to go towards criminal justice is an amazing thing. Thank you, Commissioner Lynn and Commissioner Delos, for the work you're doing on that. But be clear that the work in the downtown CRA is done. That's what this is about. Nothing more, nothing less. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Dozier, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know it's past 5. We've been here a while. There are others in the chambers waiting for some of our other items. I will try to keep this very short, but I do have one question for County Administrator or County Attorney on this. I think Commissioner Maddox just made a great point, and one that I feel strongly about. CRAs can go sideways, have gone sideways in other communities. We were told during this legislative session that we were actually held up as a poster kid for a good CRA that's well functioning now. And there are issues in Frenchtown Southside. And Commissioner Proctor, I hope you get to a place in the next few minutes where you can vote for this budget. It's a good budget. And just for clarification, Leon County had to battle for our seats on the CRA board. We were going to have to pay one way or another. Statutorily, CRA is created, county has to pay. So we went to battle for those seats, for the representation we had years ago, correct? And if we were to walk away now, one, I think we are looked at, we all get comments all the time, as a very well-run government because of our transparency, our collaborative nature, but because we meet our obligations too. So if we were to walk away right now, we would probably end up in some legal battle with the city over prematurely walking away from our agreements and our commitments, statutorily or otherwise, versus staying engaged and proceeding with the approach that you and the county administrator have laid out. That gives us more power as we talk about in negotiating an exit from downtown, but also how we work in the future on Frenchtown South Side should that go forward. Is that fair to say? Yes, okay. So, Commissioner Proctor, I understand the feeling there. I think this is the right posture for us and keeps us moving in the right direction for the good work that is being done and could be done in the future, as Commissioner Maddox and others have said. Thank you.
Motion on the table made by Commissioner Lindley, seconded by Commissioner Dozier is for staff recommendation, options 1 through 11 as amended. Seeing no other commissioners in queue to speak, all those in favor of the motion on the table signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Passes 6-1 with Commissioner Proctor in dissent. Commissioners, it is 5 minutes after 5 o'clock. We have 4 more items left on general business. What is the will of the board? Are y'all ready to go ahead and break, or shall we keep moving? Okay. If you all don't mind, I have no problem allowing any staff to go ahead and begin dinner, Mr. Administrator. So, we can work in cycles, and if we need to bring anybody out, we can. So let's keep moving forward then. Mr. Administrator, item number 25, and let me go ahead and invite staff to go ahead and begin dinner.
You're going to trust
Thank
all
you,
of the
Mr.
staff,
Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, you're going to trust staff to go in there and save us some?
I am. Absolutely.
Mercy.
Absolutely. Item number 25, Mr. Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. And let me, if I could, provide an important clarification on the previous item. I inverted the numbers on the downtown and the south side CRA. It's 1.7 downtown, or 1.7 in the Frenchtown of 1.1. Let me just correct the record that the obligation is 1.1 for the downtown CRA. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
25.
On item number 25, Commissioners, consistent with your actions from the budget workshop on the 20th, this item seeks your approval to establish a paid parental leave policy for county employees as included in the analysis before you, Commissioners. More and more top local and state government organizations are offering parental leave as an employee benefit. In evaluating best practices, we're recommending a 6-week program with a benefit that ranges from 100% to 50% based on the number of weeks participants choose to take. We recommended that in the first year, we provide this program within existing resources, and depending on the impact, we can come back to you during the budget next year if our experience warrants a budget action. This would, Commissioners, certainly be a great employee benefit and would further distinguish Leon County as an employer of choice. And with that, we appreciate this and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Do we have any speaker cards?
We have no speakers on this item.
I'm going to recognize Commissioner Deloge first for bringing this forward, and then come back to Commissioner Dozier and Commissioner Proctor. Commissioner Deloge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd start by saying I move staff's recommendation because I think this is a...
Commissioner Deloge has moved staff's recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Lindley.
And
go ahead.
Let me just, I think we want to become, as we've talked about in our strategic plan, kind of an employer of choice. We want to be the kind of place that people come to work to and want to come to work to and don't want to leave. And nothing has the impact as what having a child does in your life. I mean, it changes, for those of us who are parents, it changes everything. And so an employer that's willing to work with you and it doesn't make it as rough as it could is, I think, the kind of employer where people are going to want to stay and they want to come to work to, and that's the kind of thing I think we need to build here. And we slowly added things, but I'd also want to make abundantly clear, I'm not saying this is appropriate for everybody in our county. You lead by example, and I would like to think that other businesses and other employers would look at this and say, we want to be competitive too, and we're going to do that. So I don't want anybody to misconstrue what we've put together here. This is within the 4 walls of the county, and I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's a responsible thing to do, and I think, as I pointed out earlier, it makes us a better employer. So we want those type of employees, and it'll retain the better employers. So I'm proud to be part of this. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Dozier, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for going to Commissioner Deloge first. I am very glad you introduced this issue, and I'm happy that you got to make the motion. I think you got a chorus of seconds, so I agree with how you framed it, and I do hope this is an example, like some of our other policies we've talked about, to other organizations throughout our community and beyond. Having said that, there is one area that I would love for staff to look at, and I'll support the motion absolutely, but discussed this with County Administrator in our briefing yesterday, and just another area to look at in the next couple months perhaps, and bring us back some recommendations if possible. I really appreciate the review of other counties and how they're approaching this subject. But I noted that, well, first, I love the fact that we're honoring both parents, adoption. This is not just about a birth parent, you know, in the bonding and everything else. This is really holistic, and that is really great. But I've seen a lot of examples with friends, with others, maybe with some staff here, where two parents will stagger their leave. So because early child care is very, very expensive, or they want to increase the bonding time. So maybe mom will take her 4 weeks, and then dad will take 4 weeks, or other mom will take 4 weeks, or other, you know, whatever it might be. So I'm wondering, the policy as written is for immediate and consecutive time, meaning that either parent would have to take their leave immediately after birth or adoption. So I'm wondering if staff can just look at consecutive leave, particularly for parents who may work at two different organizations, within a set time frame, and proving, you know, to their employers, to the county, that, you know, this is what they're doing. I think some restrictions are appropriate within that 12 weeks, as we discussed yesterday, Ms. County Administrator. And if I'm getting any of this wrong, please let me know. But I appreciate you and Alan, you know, talking through this with me yesterday, and would just love for us to look at that a little bit more. And the only other thing I didn't mention, domestic partner registry. We use the word spouse in the policy. So anybody registered or married, I would wonder if that's a qualification. So for the maker of the motion, no amendment to the policy, but if we could direct staff just to look at those two issues and come back to us, I'd appreciate that.
Mr. Administrator, incumbent?
Just, Commissioners, that I would offer that you could perhaps even skip a step, because we did evaluate programs that provide for the provisions that Commissioner Dozier talked about in our initial evaluation, and there are policies that do both things. Some that require the immediate consecutive taking of the leave, and others that put it within a certain time frame, that you must take it within 12 weeks or within a calendar year. But again, we could bring those options back to the board, or we could simply just take that direction from you today. I don't want to rush anything, but if you said that you'd like to have the ability, that flexibility for the parent to do that, then we could certainly devise a policy based on those practices and incorporate that into the policy that you passed tonight.
Any objections from the board? Seeing none, I think you have proper direction.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Mr. County Administrator. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is great.
Commissioner Proctor.
I was taking cue from our outstanding Human Resource Director, Ms. Candace Wilson. And Ms. Wilson's head pretty much was going, you know, as if this is very embraceable by her unit. And, you know, an HR director shows satisfaction in beams. This tells me that we're adding a star to our county's crown. And good work to Commissioner Deloge. I want to thank him because this is very humane, and it gives added dimension as well as definition to those rights which are being extended to employees of Leon County's government. This is a good day, and Candace is still shaking her head forward. All right, great job. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Motion on the table for staff recommendation made by Commissioner Deloge, seconded by Commissioner Lindley. Seeing no other commissioners in queue to speak, all those in favor of the motion on the table signify by saying aye. All those opposed, passes unanimously. Mr. Administrator, item number 26, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, this item seeks board approval to reallocate existing marketing dollars previously dedicated to our efforts to attract JetBlue to our market. With JetBlue's recent announcement that they do not have plans to expand to Tallahassee, we're seeking reallocation of $35,000 to support iHeart Tallahassee, permanent and mobile art displays advocated by KCCI and unanimously supported by the TDC. And Kerry Post is here to answer any questions that you might have, but I have no speakers on this item.
Mr. Vice Chairman, you're recognized.
Kerry, if you could. Real simple question here. What was the recommendation from the TDC?
The TDC fully supported redirecting the $35,000 from the AirTran in the budget to support this KCCI project, supporting our brand of I Heart Tally.
Move staff recommendation.
Second.
Staff recommendation has been properly made by the Vice Chairman, seconded by Commissioner Deloge. Commissioner Proctor, you are recognized.
I just want to, I very much respect Ms. Post and outstanding work and leadership she gives. I hope she knows that by now. But Ms. Post, this money originally designated to bring an airline company reduced now to say that I love Tally is like a 180-degree, and I just wish that this money was being spent to recruit, as a transportation so I'm just wanting you to note that I'm out of an abundance of regard for you, that I'm supporting this. But just philosophically, we go from this money to bring JetBlue here and say, that's all right, let's just get a can of beer and, we love Tallahassee. But I'm supporting you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Motion on table made by the Vice Chairman for staff recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Deloge. Seeing no other commissioners in queue to speak, all those in favor of the motion on table signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Ms. Post. Item number 27.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, this item seeks your consideration of the county's participation in an animal abuser registry to increase public awareness of animal abuse crimes and to help decrease the occurrence of animal abuse. This is an item that the board requested back in May. Wanda Hunter has been working with our stakeholders, including the city, on this item and can answer any questions you may have. We have no speakers on this item.
Mr. Vice Chairman, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I remembered, I believe that Commissioner Lindley brought this to the table, and so, Mr. Chair, I'd be honored to second her motion for staff recommendation on this.
Commissioner Lindley makes a motion for staff recommendation, seconded by the Vice Chair. Commissioner Lindley, you're recognized for comments.
Well, thank you very much. I'm just really thrilled to get this moving along as quickly as we have, and thanks to the legal department for helping us make sure this is going to be a fair and well-organized addition to our ordinances. Thank you.
Commissioner Lindley moves staff recommendation of option number 1 and option number 2, seconded by the Vice Chair. Seeing no other commissioners in queue to speak, all those in favor of the motion on the table signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Passes unanimously 7-0. Mr. Administrator, item number 28.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, this item seeks your consideration of modification to the county's animal tethering ordinance to provide further restrictions on animal tethering, including providing that tethering must be, or that prohibiting, rather, unattended tethering in Leon County. The board requested this item as well back in May, and if approved, the county attorney's office will proceed with the drafting of amendments and will schedule the public hearings on this item.
Any public speakers on this item?
We have no speakers on this item.
Okay, Commissioner Proctor, you are recognized.
I've been seeing a number of stories about dogs left in the hot car. Do we have any rules about dogs left in cars? Is that anything that we have, or is that just, how does that work?
There is currently, in the current ordinance, it is a violation of the ordinance to leave an animal in a car. So it is in the current ordinance.
I saw a car was 169 degrees, and the other day they got a car. Is there a temperature requirement or threshold?
There is no temperature requirement under that ordinance.
Is there an amount of heat? It has to be 80 degrees, 85 degrees that day, or what?
It's just restricted at any point. They can't be left unattended in a vehicle.
Okay, got you. All right, thank you.
Commissioner Dozier, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You don't have a motion yet, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, move staff recommendation.
Commissioner Dozier has probably moved staff recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Deloge. Commissioner Dozier, you have the floor.
2 very quick comments. Our staff spent a world of time going through animal ordinance changes, and particularly looking at tethering and feral cats a number of years ago. There were some challenges then. We've got data now, and we also have community groups like Voices of Change, Animal League, that are really helping educate the public and build shelters for dogs who were previously tethered. So we've come a long way. I think this was an eye-opening perhaps for Commissioner Maddox and myself of just how many people will turn out on animal issues in our first year and a half or so. But really glad we're moving forward, and the fact that this is ready to go right out of the box instead of, just going through all the different time and discussion we had years ago really proves that y'all been doing great work. So thank you for that. Happy to see this come in for a landing.
Commissioner Dozier has properly moved staff recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Deloge. Seeing no other commissioners in queue to speak, all those in favor of the motion on the table signify by saying aye. All those opposed, passes unanimously, 6-0. Do we have any other general business, Mr. Administrator?
We do not.
It is 5:20. We stand adjourned until the public hearing at 6.
Good, that's a good add-on. Kristen, that was a good add-on to that thing, yeah. The domestic partner thing, I think, goes without saying. And, the adoption thing, too, I think, frankly,